know that one house took a, no, it's tough to that. I haven't sold it.
Okay, so,
Did it?
go ahead.
Did they get one?
Well,
Good for them.
actually, they got above average.
Oh, mower.
7 o'clock, open the meeting. Please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do you have any additions or corrections to the agenda as printed?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
One second.
We have a motion properly supported. Any other corrections on it or anything? If not, a call for the order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay, we have the minutes of our last meeting, April 14th, 2026, regular meeting. Assuming everybody has had a chance to, has received them and had a chance to look at them. And entertain a motion for their approval.
I'll make that motion to approve the minute. One second.
We have motion properly supported. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, call for the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, passed unanimously. Okay, public comment. These are for items that are on the agenda, keeping in mind that we will have a public hearing on the rezoning, so I'll go around the room, and if anybody has any comments relative to agenda items, please let us know. Leo? Back here? Okay. All right, we'll move right on to the business items. Tonight, we have a public hearing scheduled for the rezoning request at 9440 Sparta Avenue from C1 to C2. I'll open the public hearing by first asking the applicant to please give us a brief description of what they are seeking, and we'll go from there. Please state your name and an address so we can get that in our records.
My name is Connor Clay. The address in question is the 944 or 9D440 Sparta Ave, Sparta, Michigan.
What was the house number? I'm sorry.
Is that your residence?
Oh, my residence?
Yes, your residence.
21761 16th Avenue, Conklin, Michigan.
Is your last name C-L-A-Y?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to move from 300 feet to 500 feet, C2. And I did get the objections from the residents on Yost Parkway and read over that. The first objection about the original master plan. The reason why we're requesting from 300 feet to 500 feet is to keep the residential owner's privacy in mind. The septic and well is what we are planning on putting towards the back of the property so that we can put trailers in the front. Probably not a bunch of junk like they're probably imagining. We sell trailers to residential people and some commercial people and some repairs. We plan on doing pretty landscape and fencing to keep the property looking nice, especially in front of the other side where residents reside. Also, the current master plan which they stated, that it was changed, but the current master plan of 20 years, to the best of my knowledge, states 500 feet back is allowed along Sparta Avenue for mixed residential and commercial properties, which is the same language used in the previous master plan, which we would be following at the 500 feet as requested. As for their second objection, due to property values, as stated by residential owners, and I quote, all residential lots on Yost Parkway were purchased, or sorry, that's wrong. One second, sorry. Yeah, so they stated in their request for denial, and I quote, all residential lots on Yost Parkway were purchased with the understanding that the commercial lots would not exceed 300 feet deep from Sparta Ave, as does Rent Smart. The understanding that the residential owners have on the master plan is not really my responsibility for them to know what the actual which is actually written in the master plan. They have the same opportunities to obtain the copies of the master plan as I have read through most of them. As per Rent Smart's property being zoned as C2 at 300 feet, which they noted, and not 500, their property does not go back any further than 300 feet, so they couldn't have gone any further or requested for, because that is their entire property. And then as of objection 3 for the traffic on Yost Parkway, our main goal when buying the property from Paul and Becky was to go back 500 feet so that our customers could turn around in our front lot. The 500 feet would allow our customers to avoid driving down the cul-de-sac to turn around, because we could have the extra 200 feet of turnaround space / parking lot. Our goal is to have signs at our drive stating things such as, and not limited to, please no commercial vehicles or customers past this point. The extra 200 feet would increase the safety of children and pets at the residential addresses, which they noted they had concerns on, due to customers turning around in our parking lot instead of going past residential addresses and turning around in the cul-de-sac. With our parking lot shrunk, it would increase the traffic through the cul-de-sac and past the residents. Also, our customer traffic, which they stated, they were worried about increasing at 500 feet. Our traffic's going to be the same whether it's 300 feet or 500 feet, for customers coming in for repairs and such. The objection 4 for the privacy. The residential landowners all purchased their properties after Rent Smart purchased theirs, knowing that both front properties were already zoned commercial use with no outlet towards the rear Yost Parkway, which they stated as a concern. Our optimal goal is to keep the residential and commercial as separate as possible from traffic so that they can enjoy their life and we can do our business. As for the fifth thing, for road maintenance, our main goal is to have our customers turn around on our lot and not go towards Parkway, go on Yost Parkway as far as the cul-de-sac, which would actually save on road maintenance with the extra 200 feet for the people living residential. And then right here, I have a 54-page document that everyone here has equal opportunity to read through, stating Sparta's master plan, which reads, which I highlighted here, and I quote, along Sparta Ave, the NURC area may be extended to a depth of 500 feet, which they said they were not aware of, but it has been there for about 20 years. So I asked the board the better question, which is, why shouldn't we be approved for the C2 with 500 feet? But regardless of your decision today, I'd like all residential owners to have a safe peace of mind and everyone to be happy with the decision today. We will do what we can do to stop customers from going past their houses entirely. Even if that means we talk to them about a gate or something of the sort, however we can come to a term of that. is all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, guess we'll go to the back row. Anybody like to say anything? This is- Again, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dave Reichert, 1540 Yost Parkway. This is my wife Dawn. We were the first individuals to build a house back there. And we purchased the lot with the understanding that there would be two businesses at the front, 300 feet. We knew that. We had no problems with that. We moved from Sparta. This is our first house we ever built. Working with the Sparta Township was absolutely amazing, but when you're given certain information and you make big financial decisions to build a new house, to move your family from Rockford to here, and then things are maybe changed, I don't think that's appropriate. I'm good with the 300 feet. If the master plan for 20 years said 500 feet, it's not currently at 500 feet, it's at 300 feet. And so I would just ask, those two lots at the front were 300 feet for a reason. They're equal depth, and I think they should remain at equal depth. And so with that being said, I would like to share a picture, if I could. I only got one copy. I didn't know there was gonna be 7 people. But this is the 500 feet stake, and this is my garage. That new 500 feet line is even with my new outbuilding I bought. So when I pull out of my garage, or my driveway, that's the line. The 300 goes obviously 200 feet towards Sparta Avenue, but not even being aware that that would be an issue, we would have never built our house there. And like I said, we love living in Sparta, we love dealing with Sparta Township, but I think this is a wrong decision to extend it 200 feet. You got our letter. Any questions about our points?
Anybody have any questions? No. Okay.
Or any questions for me?
Mark? Yes.
If their intent is to put their sewer system back there and to put landscaping so that it's sewer and you're not gonna see anything, it's their drain field, is it still an issue for you?
Yes.
Can I ask why?
I don't wanna look out and see trailers across from my house.
Okay, but he's saying it's not trailers, it's their drain field.
We wouldn't drive on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
We can't
okay,
drive it.
excuse me, okay, we'll let you
We'll
have.
get back to you.
We'll get back.
Can I ask a question?
It's up to.
Address it to us and then.
Not, okay. Okay.
We will do
I'm
that.
I'm just curious on how many trailers are currently at their facility? Outside, that
Okay.
would be identical or more, because I'm assuming the property they're buying across from my house is bigger than what they have now.
From what we're hearing, is this area is going to be for their drain field, for their sewer system, and that's what he said. And then everything else is up front, is what he's saying. He has to submit a site plan to us, so we have to be able to see it. We haven't got that yet. So I'm just trying to state what he's telling us. So if it was just their drain field, their sewer system, and there was landscaping and I don't know what kind of fencing we're talking, but if it was fenced and landscaped and made pretty, would it still be an issue if it was just the drain field?
Yes.
It would still be an issue for you? Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Fair enough. Do you need to keep those or? you good?
No.
Did everybody understand?
Could you explain it again? So
Yes.
this is your garage.
This is my outbuilding and my house is over here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that stake is where the 500 new line would be.
I see.
So this is looking north, is that correct?
Correct.
Your house.
Correct,
Yeah.
yep. We're on the south side.
The whole house is on the, house and outbuilding is on the south side.
Correct, it has a shared driveway. And I would welcome you all to come out and walk the property with me and just take a look at what is being supposedly planned.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the back row that would like to?
I'm Steve Shively, 34 Ida Red, apartment 205. They're buying a lot more than that. So the drain field's gonna be on that. I guess I would want to be very clear that, you know, what I would think his drain field's gonna be back farther off this, and then he has more space for his trailers. I guess where did it perk from would be one question.
That's one of the questions we will be asking.
Okay.
And again, as was stated, a site plan is required. What they're gonna have to lay out exactly where things are gonna be. And I'm not sure if they know right now, but I would assume that, you know, the drain field, the well, and I'm not sure, Kevin, are they gonna have to do anything as far as stormwater retention?
So yeah, for a site plan review, we would have to prepare a site plan showing a layout where everything's gonna be located, well, septic, parking lot.
Right.
Review for stormwater, and that it meets all provisions of the zoning ordinance.
Right, which could consume some of that property to the back, the 500 feet, or the extra 200 feet back there, so.
Yes, yeah, depending on.
Right, the layout, I mean,
septic
I'm
and-
not sure how big their septic field is gonna have to be, it's gonna probably depend on the perk back there, and everything, so, okay.
But the actual property they're buying is another 200 foot farther than that too. I don't know if you guys don't do that. Okay, thank you.
How did you spell your last name?
SCHAI, oops, BLE.
I did the same
Twice. I gotta watch it more.
Jerry,
Yes,
can we now go back and ask?
yes, I
Mr.
think,
Clay, question?
is everybody had their, okay,
So I would just like
Oh,
to
okay.
say something, if I may. So Dawn Riker, 1540 Yost Parkway. So we've lived on Yost Parkway for just over a year. Our neighbors to the front of the road on the left-hand side is Rent Smart, and they have been great neighbors to us. They've been very considerate of us. My husband's actually made friends with the owner. I'm just curious why, if the potential new owner was planning on making these large changes to what they were going to do with the property, that they didn't come around and introduce themselves to the neighbors, get our opinion on what was happening, explain their vision. We prepared a letter that we provided to the committee, the board, that was provided to the potential new landowner. We were not provided any information in advance as to what the intent of the potential future owner was with the land. So in the interest of being good neighbors, I would think that would have been an appropriate conversation meeting for them to have with the current residents of Yost Parkway. Thank you for your time.
thank you. With that, we'll close the public portion, and I guess at this time, we can ask questions of the applicant or any of the speakers, so. Barb?
Clay. Mr. Clay? I didn't know if Clay was your first name or your last name.
Last name, first name's Connor.
Connor.
Yep.
So if I may ask, so the additional 200 feet, is that correct?
Correct.
And that your plan is to make that strictly the area for your drain field?
Correct, we don't intend on putting any building or any trailers on that section. We want to try to keep the commercial section completely separate from the residential. Where that can kind of just be hidden and be open grass, landscape, trees, plants, as that sort. And we can't drive on it anyway, so they couldn't be trailers stored there. If it only got approved to the 300, our problem would be our septic would be somewhere else, which would mean our trailers would be pushed out, which would mean we'd have a smaller parking lot, which would cause customers with bigger trailers to not be able to turn around on our lot, which would mean they would have to go around the cul-de-sac, but obviously our optimal goal is to keep all of our customers coming right in off Sparta Ave in our lot alone, and back out, to not go down Yost Parkway at all.
Do you have any kind of site plan drawn up?
We did get some tests from the county, they gave us some options, and they're all from about the 300-foot back. We had them go all the way back to the 500 just because. So it's all ranged from about 250 to 500 feet area that we had them test.
Is the best spot for parking.
So our goal is to get it pushed back as far as possible because I believe they said the average system is gonna be somewhere around 75 to 125 foot in length. So it's a pretty substantial area that no traffic would be allowed on anyway. It would be a lawn, basically.
Okay, so where have you had it perked?
Yes. It's they give us a really generic.
Would you like to see it?
Yes, I would.
It's before the road was put in, so judging,
That's okay.
it's,
But you can
You can probably figure it out.
yeah.
Other spots are where it perked. As you can see, it
So-
did perk further back on the property. That was, I
Okay.
believe, where they said it perked best. I think they have the road on the wrong side though.
They do, cause if that's Yost, if this is,
Yeah, it should be here, the drive should be here.
so it should go like down through here.
Yep.
So you'd be over here.
Yeah, yep, our building, yeah. I don't know if they have that picture.
It's very hard to judge.
No, I
because it's a
think the road's in the right spot. Here.
No, that shows the difference.
Well, cause that
Right there's
building,
Yost Drive.
There's the creek speaks by us.
Right.
So it should be a
Right
smart
here.
driveway of the creek.
Mhm.
And it's still I don't know what this
What is
is.
he saying?
because this building,
We're next to that house.
that's,
This is the.
that, yeah, that is that's that home.
That's the property line for us. Right there. This black line, I believe.
And this is the creek.
Correct. So we can't even use that section.
Drops off tremendously.
Basically, it would be, yes, so half this isn't even usable. Basically, we want to do septic, that would take up that whole spot in front of their driveway. And then, building up probably around that
Building
300
belongs
feet.
over here.
Yeah, and then, trailers in the front row. That's our idea.
Well, and you can't have your septic and your well next to each other.
Correct, yeah.
They have to be like 50 feet.
Is it 50 or 75?
75.
75?
Is it 75 now?
Which is part of the reason for needing that 200 feet. So that we can get the septic and well in that section.
And
Without
Kevin, what
taking-
did you say about this land? What did you say about that there being wetland in there anyway?
Along the creek, yes, the creek, from a quick
So-
review of the property, it does appear that some of that.
It's designated as wetland? Or you?
Well, Eagle has a wetlands map viewer.
Yep,
On their wetlands map viewer, there's 3 different types of wetlands identified. Not all of those are regulated wetlands, so that's something that'll have to be addressed as part of their site plan review.
okay,
Is there are regulations in the zoning ordinance that
kind of.
limit or restrict completely the impact to wetlands. But where that well and septic is approved, that is 100% gonna be reviewed by the Kent County Health Department.
Does anybody else wanna see their?
Yeah,
Paperwork.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. Yeah, the wetlands thing is kind of a strange issue. It's wetlands, it has a size for the wetland, but then if it's interconnected with some other drainage course, then
And this
it's potentially regulated.
And this is from the Kent County Health Department.
Right,
It does look like they put, which I just noticed, I was looking, this is the colored version.
okay.
This is the property that we purchased, this is Yost Parkway. I don't know where they put it, but that's rent smart, they put it on the wrong side. So that building's not there, it's here. I don't know how they messed that up.
It drops off.
It drops way down.
It's over here.
So that's where it perked, where we would like put a septic or well in the building.
Mhm.
And then
Because I was
in the
actually
front row,
out there when they
their houses are
perk
back in
tested.
this section.
Mhm.
and here, and here were the best two spots.
So what is this?
That's across the
Up here
creek,
was
another
nice.
house that just happened to be in the picture.
You
They're,
can't
they're,
have your well that
this
close
is the
to
creek and then they're.
No, so that's why they
You
were
can't
looking
even really see
at
their house,
way
but-
back here, so they could put their well like right up in here, building.
So your property is right here
You
then?
can't.
I believe this black
And they're
line
trying
right
to keep
here,
everything in front of the building, from what
I
I.
believe this black line right here,
That's exactly what.
following over, and then from right here, going back and over. Okay. Right there.
Ah, okay. You got the color one, I didn't get the
So
color.
this section right here is where we would want the septic and well. Building. And then their houses right here. So we were thinking fence and this would just be yard.
So there would be a fence in between the septic area?
However we word it, yes,
Okay.
however.
Some kind of screening.
What are the length of these trailers that we plan on doing?
Just ones you pull behind cars, I think the biggest we typically get's like, I mean, we might have a custom ordered one here and there, it's 30 foot, but typically what we're gonna stock is a 20-foot car trailer, some aluminum trailers, stuff like that, they're not,
Not 30, 40 feet.
But they're all on the front.
yeah, in the front.
So what type of an inventory do you normally carry?
As of
More
right now,
than what you have now?
because we have to pay for our trailers outright and we only have so much of a budget, typically we only stock, as of right now, 50 to 70 trailers.
Okay.
Which a lot of those are multiples, so they remain stacked and taking one spot, so like as of right now, we can stack 5 aluminums on top of each other, so 5 trailers taking one spot.
Are you
which would be
talking like a trailer that you
Yeah,
haul a car on or?
a car trailer, something you'd pull behind a minivan, a 5x10, something you'd go grab a. Can I show you a picture? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about.
So like, there's 4 trailers.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yep, I
that's
got you, okay.
Any questions, Tim?
No, I actually, just for an opinion, I was actually out there with the Clays when they had, the perk test done.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, I think it would have a bigger impact if they had a picture on here that actually showed the elevation changes, cause there's quite,
Right.
once you get back behind the 300-foot mark, the best 2 spots that the health department said were on the back 200 feet that they want additionally zoned, cause I think the lot, what did we say, 700 feet deep is the one, it's a single lot, front 300 zone C2, back right now is zoned probably residential, but the best 2 spots that he said were beyond the 300 feet. And there's a little wood line and a narrow area that's cleared that they're looking at. They would probably have to take out a few more trees to stretch to fit the drain field in there, but it drops off substantially once you get into the tree line. And it's almost like out of that, if you extend it back, the back 200 feet, you probably have maybe 50 feet wide before it drops off steadily back there, and then that whole rest of that corner that's getting extended, it drops off drastically down to the creek. So,
Yeah, you can't walk down there.
Probably not even that with the power pole in between, which takes up a good section of that, probably like he said, about 50 foot, which is almost smack dab in the middle.
so I think that's what they were, at least they were, discussing and verbalizing with me that they wanted to do was shove the building up in the front, the front 300 feet that's already zoned, commercial, with the well close to the building, so that way they had enough room and so if they're 75 feet away from the well with their septic, and their septic ends up being 100 foot long or 125 foot long, that's almost the whole use of that edge of the 200 feet. Cause it does drop off really bad. I mean, that back 200 feet is maybe 25% usable, I would think.
Maybe,
Maybe, so.
and it wouldn't be a raised septic either, I believe.
Back there it didn't need to be.
It's just flat like it is.
Yeah, he said that back there per 12. It's good sand, so.
So are you saying that it isn't as much of an impact on the neighbors because that whole piece isn't being used?
I don't know how they could, store trailers back there over top of that.
You can't park on septic.
Now,
On a drain field.
Yeah. Yeah, you're only gonna drive over it a couple times before
Yeah, I
it
only
gets
went
really
by
bad,
myself.
so. But yeah, most of that back area there is really low, and so is actually the front north corner of it, where the creek kinda is close and runs through there, it drops off to that creek quite a bit, right? Right on through like that.
Are they gonna have a problem with the health department putting a drain field that close to the creek?
No, they've already approved it.
They
That
did?
was the paper he was showing you.
Yeah, they
Oh,
approved
oh,
it in
okay.
that location.
They approved it in that location, okay.
They just didn't know exact size because we haven't gave them the square footages and all the
Okay,
Yeah,
calculations.
square footage and fixture
Okay.
count.
How close are you to an actual site plan?
We're,
Getting pretty close
we,
to the ideas.
So we would be able to see exactly where everything's gonna be laid out.
what, a week
Yeah.
away, 2 weeks away?
So the
probably 2 to 3.
planning commission cannot place conditions on a rezoning.
Okay,
No.
Yeah, the
I
site
just
plan,
wondered.
yeah, if the applicant offered conditions, that's
Oh, there you go.
possible, but yet the planning commission cannot place those conditions on a rezoning.
It might solve the problem with the site plan.
So again, unless the applicant offered a site plan, they could show you a preliminary site plan, you approve the rezoning, they still have the ability to change that site plan in the future until that site plan has gone through the review process, but the planning commission, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act restricts the township from placing conditions on a rezoning. So that would be, if somebody came in and said, here's my site plan, here's what I'm planning to do, that would be my same response to you is that site plan can change, that zoning district's gonna be there for not in perpetuity, but just it's definitely something you can take into consideration, but there's no guarantee that the site plan, preliminary site plan you'd be shown as part of rezoning is what a final site plan would be.
I have a question. Did they provide a backup site for a backup septic? When we did ours, they
Right,
had.
they will have to, the health department requires you to have a reserved area,
Right,
yes.
they found
So
3
that-
for us.
Right, yeah, well, but yeah, anymore, that's what they do, they
So
actually
did that
require you to
document
have.
provide that?
No, we haven't seen that yet, we haven't seen, what, I guess my question to Kevin, okay, right now, we're looking at rezoning, are these 2 parcels? These 2 parcels, or are they 1 parcel?
It's one parcel, so the current parcel, the first 300 foot is zone C1 and the remainder of the parcel is zone Ag
Remainder
2.
of the parcel.
So what they're requesting is having the first 300 feet plus all the way up to 500 feet rezoned to C2. The remainder of the parcel would remain Ag 2. And then, once that rezoning is complete, all uses within the C2 district would be allowable.
But the sale of that piece of land has 2 parcels connected to it. There's 2 parcels, the front and then the residential.
The A2.
So that it is not 2 parcels, it is 1 parcel, 1 lot, but it is dual zoned.
Dual zone, yeah.
Don?
So the only thing we're doing tonight is deciding whether to rezone it to A, or to C2.
Yes, yep.
That's-
So when you're reviewing that, typically, there's more specific standards in the memo, but generally, when you're reviewing a rezoning, there's gonna be three general standards. Is it consistent with the master plan? Is it compatible with surrounding land uses? Is it capable of supporting all the land uses in that district? Those are gonna meet the three general standards. Working with legal counsel, we have created some more specific items for the planning commission to consider in regard to whether you would recommend approval, recommend denial, or you could back to the applicant.
John, you have any?
The problem I can see is if they don't do it, they're gonna have trouble maintaining that cul-de-sac. If they're turning on that, you know, a lot of your trailers, the tires are gonna be sliding sideways to get around that curve. And if anybody's parking on that cul-de-sac, they won't be able to make that turn. They're back in somebody's driveway or pull in and back out.
There's no reason for them to go down the cul-de-sac,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
There's no-
It will tear that cul-de-sac
but
up.
there's no reason for them to go down the cul-de-sac.
But if it
If they
remains
have
the
a big
same.
enough parking lot, which this will give them, they have no excuse to go down there. And if at that point where, Rent Smart, at the very end of Rent Smart, if there's a sign that says private road from this point forward, do not enter, they have no business going down there. I know people will, but at least if there's a sign there, that may deter a lot of it.
And a lot of those items are part of site plan review, there's standards for a site plan review.
Mhm.
If they did move forward with the use that they're proposing, it is a use by right. That is not something that would return to the planning commission for review. So really, I would recommend in reviewing the request, you know, again, reviewing those standards of whether or not the request meets the standards. Cause then at the end of the day, it's rezoned, they might have the best of intentions to put exactly what they're saying. 2 days from now, something happens, they're not able to build what they do and it gets sold to somebody else. So again, it's applying those standards. Is it compatible, is it consistent with the master plan? Is it compatible with surrounding land uses? And is it capable of supporting all of the uses allowed within the C2 district?
I just feel that it would be better just to wait and get that site plan looked at before we make a decision on it, that's all.
Well, we can't do that.
But you can't do that.
Can't do that.
The one,
You can't set a condition,
We can, can't move it forward.
no,
We have to make a decision
we have to
tonight?
make a decision.
yeah, one part, Don, if I could interject there, the problem I see is the long term of it, like Kevin said, that's sticking in my mind. Zoning goes with the property forever. So say down the road, they wanted to move, right? What's to say somebody can't buy that property, tear down that building and put something else there in C2 zoning? So like Kevin reiterated, the site plan is not relevant to the zoning, and I would agree with that because if somebody wants to spend the money on it, they can tear it down, and as long as it fits in the zoning, they can come back and with a totally different site plan and be approved for something else. Now, I personally don't have that kind of money, but there are people that do, so. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This question, does it make sense before we get too in-depth on this for our planner to go through his review and
For him to read through.
findings?
Mhm.
Cause you're talking about the standards and stuff like that, and
So the summary is we have reviewed, for Fresh Coast Planning's review of the standards, they do appear to meet all of the standards of review and we would recommend approval. Within your memo, we show the 8 different items for consideration. So the first item, is it consistent with the master plan? Our preliminary findings were that the 2026 Sparta Township master plan classify these lands as mixed-use residential, commercial. And that, in summary, without just reading the whole thing to you, that the master plan does identify that land use classification, which includes residential, commercial, uses being extended up to a depth of 500 feet. Public need and general welfare, so the rezoning should demonstrate a public need, such as providing commercial services, mostly general welfare. Again, I can read the whole paragraph, but based on our findings, it does appear that the standard was met. Conformance with good zoning practice, so there is from the south side of the village all the way to M237, there is a commercial strip that is at least 300 feet wide on both sides of Sparta Avenue. Further, RetSmart, that property is zone C2, and then on the west side of Sparta Avenue is also zone Z2. And the request does appear to conform with good zoning practices. Compatibility with surrounding land uses. So to the north, there is an existing home. That property is also dual zone commercial and ag 2. And then, as been spoken to here tonight, the remaining portions of Yost Parkway are also zoned ag 2. And determining whether or not that use would be compatible, the rezoning would be compatible with surrounding land uses, we did take into consideration requirements of the zoning ordinance. So the zoning ordinance currently requires a landscaping buffer strip between commercial and residential uses. Additionally, that with that existing commercial strip and those zoning ordinance provisions, the rezoning does appear to be compatible with surrounding uses. Change.
Commissioner, may I ask a question on that? What is it, how big is that buffer, Kevin? I don't recall.
I looked at that before the meeting because I knew I was gonna get that question and then I forgot. Let me pull that up real quick. Buffer yard is a minimum of 10 feet wide. For every 20 linear feet abutting the adjacent property, they have to plant at least one tree. Trees should be a mixture of evergreen, canopy, and ornamental. For each tree, there's 2 shrubs. If there's other planting requirements of spacing to ensure that the planting can survive. And then it also provides provisions for berms and fencing. So it could be a mixture of landscaping and fencing. Yep. At a minimum, there is a buffer strip that's at least 10 feet wide with specific planting requirements from what must be included in that buffer strip.
So would that apply in this case to just the back line? Or could that also apply to the roadside?
That would not apply to the roadside. It would just apply to those property lines that abut, so where the commercial district abuts the
East-west, it'd be an east-west direction in this case.
The east side of the property potentially, and definitely the south side, and then also that north side.
Of the property or of where the split zoning line is? I would think it would be at the split zoning line, but I don't know how it's written.
That would be my intent with this, is reading the intent. The district it's gonna be dual zoned, so there's a buffer strip on the west side, even though it's still owned by that same property owner. Likely there'll be a buffer strip along the east property line, or not property line, but the east side.
East zoning difference.
Yep, and then also along the south side of that property. Up to at least to the point where the property aligns with RetSmart. So if you took RetSmart.
So there would be the buffer zone would apply on the road then?
Right.
Yes, on Yost Parkway,
Okay.
yes. I was,
So essentially, there could be a buffer zone on the road and then going north at the zoning split, if you will, for the lack of a better term.
yes.
And how far back is the proposed purchase beyond the 500 feet?
Well, I didn't hear that.
Can you repeat that?
700 feet.
I was saying, we already purchased the property.
Oh, right, but, so the 500 feet, you wanna, how much additional from the 500 feet does it go to?
Do you have that in the folder? One second, yeah.
Just curiosity, I mean, it's really not hugely important.
In the whole entire residential section, we plan on, we have nothing to do with the section, cause we can't use it for anything, so we plan on just prettying that up, planting trees, making it look nice.
There should
There's nothing we
copy
really
of
can do with it other than that, so.
There should be a copy of
Actually,
the survey
it actually,
in the rezoning ordinance.
that would be the line, actually.
So this is another 170 feet.
This is the entire thing, absolutely, split that would be.
This would be the residential portion.
So I think he's referring to that buffer here. From the.
Buffer here and buffer here.
Essentially, it would be 200 feet high, however, it needs to be.
See that where I highlighted about.
Thank you.
No, we know that pretty well.
I think that would be.
Okay, thank you.
So can I ask a question? So the intent of that extra land past the 500 feet would just be green space?
Correct.
Basically,
We have we can't do anything with it, we have no use for it at
You
all.
wouldn't parcel that off and sell it?
we wouldn't be able to because.
Please direct comments to the
Oh,
planning
yes,
commission.
I'm sorry. No, I was just curious, because that piece of land is directly across from our house. And that's obviously a concern of what is gonna end up there, and it butts up to their property. What the intent is for that piece, cause you take the 500, you put a business on it, okay? Well, then there's another, what was it, 700 feet?
200.
No, it's another 171 feet on the north line and 182 feet along Yost Drive.
Yes.
Is what the additional, which would be
Cause that
residential
parcel,
or ag 2. It'd stay ag 2.
That's
right,
parcel
Kevin?
2,
Yes, the remainder of the parcel will remain Ag 2.
right.
That drawing would only be if we actually did a split, which you're allowed to do right now. But at this point, we have no intent. I'm not saying we might not sell it, someone might build a house there, that could happen no matter what.
Right.
At this point, we're just gonna leave it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 200 feet is probably gonna be 80 to 90% of that's going to be green space from drain fields, septics, all that.
Right. And from a visual, it's just gonna continue on onto the ag 2 parcel, or it's not parcel, the ag 2 portion.
Linda, did you have any, did you wanna see this? or-
No.
Okay. Yeah. How do we wanna proceed? What you think, Kevin? Which way we wanna, what, how should we proceed? Should we go ahead? I guess our decision is, do we wanna rezone? Correct?
Yeah, the planning commission should, if you haven't already, recommend reviewing the memo. There's
Yeah.
agreement with our findings, you could adopt them as written. If you have different findings, you could adopt different findings, but at the end of the day, the planning commission needs to review the standards and make a recommendation to the board.
Did you get a chance to look at those recommendations? Any other questions? Barb?
I was just looking for that sheet that,
Survey.
yeah, the survey,
This,
yeah,
yeah.
that, thank you.
That was just provided, that.
I didn't see it in mine either.
You see how that's laid out here? So are there any other questions that you have, or?
But if you guys decided to add that 200 feet, are you basically splitting the lot then for them?
No, it would be just they could use up to 200 feet of that lot. They purchased the lot already.
But you're making it commercial and then the rest would be residential?
It would,
Or ag, whatever.
Ag two, right. It would, yeah, ag two then.
To me, it just feels like you're already splitting it, aren't you?
Well,
You're giving them the option of splitting it off, right?
well, there are several parcels over there that, along Sparta Avenue, that the first 300 foot with the possibility of the additional 200 foot could be commercial. But property beyond that then would remain ag two in this case. And as was stated, our master plan is, as long as I've been on the committee, we've always envisioned increasing that 300 feet to 500 feet.
It's always been available.
It's always been available, right?
It's always been in there, so.
Excuse me?
Yes.
But we did not buy our property with the 500 feet.
It was it's always been in the master plan though.
Written that way.
It's always been written that way. It wasn't changed.
Anything else, Barb?
I don't think so.
Kim? Don?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We wanna take action on it? Well, let me know.
I know it's not easy when you make a purchase and you believe you've made a purchase based on what you believe you saw. I do empathize with you very much so. I would like to see some kind of a sign or something put up for these people so that they don't have to deal with people coming down there. I don't know what you can do, and I hope you can work together. I do agree that, you know, the septic being there and you're not gonna be able to drive over it helps definitely make it so that all of your stuff is to the front, so I make a motion that we approve changing it to the
Approving the rezoning. request.
rezoning.
Is that a recommendation to the township board?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, anyone else? Or I need a second on that.
I'll second the motion on that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve, to recommend to the board the rezoning as requested.
I think it has to be a roll call.
Yes, right. We'll have a roll call vote.
Johnson,
Yes.
Doyle,
Yes.
Flannery,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Driscoll,
I'm gonna abstain.
and Hartman.
Yes.
Carried.
So we will make the recommendation to the board.
So I don't wanna.
When would that, Dale, would that, our recommendation then would come to the board? When would that be?
Township board, you see, meets the 14th, but on something like this, it's only 2 days away, so it would be on our June 11th meeting, we'd put it on there.
I encourage you to work with your neighbors and to definitely do your best to make sure that something is put up and, yeah.
Okay. All right, next order
And I
of,
hope to the neighbors, in my opinion,
pardon?
is that you'll find the relationship with these people just like you have with RentSmart. I think they're very, very upstanding people and they don't wanna hurt the community either.
I hope so, I just would hope they would reach out to us to open up those conversations.
I could be better off.
May we be excused? May
Yes,
we be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for coming. I love your
Next order of business, home occupation regulations review. Kevin has provided us with clean copy and of the draft occupational thing, along, I think you included the comments that we had the last time, or concerns we had, you've addressed those.
Tried to, so I think, yeah, there was, if I remember correctly, there was 2 major items.
Right.
Both with the number of employees, and with the square footage requirements. So with that, for both the employee and the square footage requirement, the language includes, call it a ceiling, so here's kind of your maximum unless the planning commission approves more based on a certain set of criteria, so no additional employees unless it's specifically approved by the planning commission, and then a square footage of 1,200 square feet unless a larger square footage is approved by the planning commission.
I did have a question on page 6.
Is that the clean draft or the edited draft?
It'd be edited draft.
Page 6.
On 20. At the bottom of the paragraph where it says, but shall not include warehouse distribution or automotive repair. I know of 2 right now. There are automotive repairs. What happens with those?
That's definitely something the planning commission doesn't have to include those language, those are 3 sample uses where in our experience, we have run into issues with home-based businesses where they tend to create a lot of noise or a lot of additional traffic. Warehousing in particular, are into a situation where they started having semis trying to pull in and out of an unpermitted home business. It was blocking traffic, so it kind of speed. It's just use that's usually typically not compatible as a home occupation, and then automotive repair. I think that is definitely something that's different in every community. Some communities will allow it under very specific requirements, and other communities say no, automotive repair, regardless if it's 1 or 2, is not appropriate as a business.
Well,
residential.
Yeah, and the one I'm thinking of right now has a Greyhound bus, and you know which one I'm talking about, sitting outside, and now he's got like 20 cars sitting outside, and it's all outdoors. You know, it doesn't look great. I'm not a fan of it. I think it looks trashy, but we don't have anything written up currently, so now what do we do? Is he grandfathered in?
Right now, the automotive repair is not allowed as a home occupation, so it's
Okay.
not a legal use. So
Okay.
it would not be able to be grandfathered in. You have to be-
Okay. That was my question, is what happens with these people who have had it now, and so that's why I brought it up, cause I was curious, what happens there, so.
Well, if it's not been approved before or not acceptable, then maybe in violation of the new ordinance, if nothing else.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tim,
Yeah, Mr.
you
Chairman.
got a question?
You know, I was just thinking about that. Well, our ordinance right now, I believe, even for a private residence, you can't store vehicles on the residence that are unregistered, uninsured, and immovable. Right? So some of the vehicles, I think, would be immovable, and I don't know about, my heart's a little soft to the automotive repair guys, cause my son in Fort Wayne, he's got licensed and he works all day at a dealership, and then he comes home and he's got a license to work on cars in his
Right.
garage too, but like his ordinance, he can't have more than 3 vehicles on his property at any time that he does not own, that are not registered to the household. So I wouldn't just totally exclude automotive, but I think on the automotive sense, if we allow it, we need to put some parameters on it, so that sort of thing that's happening without the authority to happen legally doesn't happen legally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be my only comment on that, but.
Cause I know we've visited them, and all of them are licensed and all of them are insured, but he's got like 20 of them sitting there. They're not inside the pole barn.
They all registered to him, maybe that's the way to.
Yeah, they're not. He's working on them.
Yeah.
But the Greyhound bus has been sitting there for 3 years. So I'm sure the Greyhound bus isn't.
Currently registered.
Yeah, I'm sure it's,
Licensed.
yeah, exactly, so.
I thought Bob Mayer went out there and looked at that.
He has, and they're all licensed and they're all
Oh, oh,
plated.
wow.
And it went from about 8 of them to about 20 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got a lot. For a while, they were kind of all scattered. Now they're all kind of hidden behind the bus.
Is there a way of putting language in there that would give us the opportunity to impose restrictions? That, cause if the guy's got 20 acres, that's one thing, but if he's down to a, relatively small lot, we wouldn't want 20 vehicles there, obviously.
that's definitely something the planning commission considers. So right now, a home-based business is already a special land use.
Right.
So if you struck the language that excluded automotive repair, they still have to come before you as a special land use, and you could put reasonable conditions on that land use. Another option would be to create specific requirements at this point, say, automotive repair will only be allowed as a home-based business.
Provided
And
that
then
you
create
follow.
another subsection with, here's the restriction that so you could either do it on a case-by-case basis or create specific requirements as you create the ordinance.
I think that's
the way to do it, and state that they have to, they can't have 20 cars sitting outside, do it by individual, cause at least then you can control it a little better. There's one house down the street on Alpine, they've got 3 trailers, like travel trailers, camping trailers in the front yard, and they must have 20-some cars in the front yard. I think there's gotta be 4 or 5 families living in that house.
Some of the items you bring up too is that would require a deeper dive into the
Yeah.
parking regulations.
Oh,
of the
sure,
township.
yeah.
But yeah, at least for direction on automotive repair, is that what I'm understanding is you'd like to see specific regulations for automotive repair?
What if they're doing repair on this property and they're only renting?
from that, another owner that owns the property.
The business has to be run by
The owner of
the
the
owner of
property.
the property.
Yes.
So it couldn't be run by a renter.
No, I couldn't buy a property, build a house, build a pole barn, and then essentially rent it out to somebody else to run anything.
A business out of it.
Yeah, that's, I know one property that would be in that situation.
We wanna work up some language on that then as far as,
Don't we have that in there already that says the home business has to be ran by
right,
the?
I'm talking about the automotive thing.
Oh.
We wanna work some, what would we want on our wish list for that?
If the planning commission likes, I can look at some of our other community regulations, and I know this is something that, my bosses definitely work on. Automotive repair, so I can get some sample language and a number of items for you to review at the next meeting if you'd like.
Sure. I think that would be appropriate.
So are these other places grandfathered in? Who goes out and who does the enforcement on some of these properties? I can think of one that needs.
Bob Mayer is the enforcement officer for the township. Either Bob will resolve issues and, when it really becomes a matter of interpreting the zoning ordinance, I will work with Bob a lot of times, either to write letters to property owners or make sure that we're staying with the zoning ordinance also.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
and now to the big one.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on,
Yes.
is there any other concerns that the planning commission would have addressed with the home-based business language?
The other one that you had additional questions, would the commission like to see sketch plan provisions for accessory dwellings? I would like to see sketch plans.
Yeah, right now, the way that the zoning ordinance is written, is an accessory dwelling is a special land use, so we'd have to prepare formal site plans. I wanted to bring that to your attention, because we can add that language to the accessory dwelling unit language too. It would just be a separate section of the ordinance.
Don't you think? You wanna see something in?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think the one that, down in Fort Wayne that my son operates under, I think it's no more than 3, so it addresses number of vehicles unregistered to the household that can be on the property in sight, and then it also references that they cannot be stored, they have to be stored, they can't be stored within any of the residential footprint, so, I mean, they gotta be stored behind the house. Or the other one, so I think like his garage, he can put 2 cars in his garage to work on it, so like he can have 5. Because 2 of them are inside and totally out of view, and then the other 3 have to be, I think his is actually the front of his accessory building, so the other 3, if he ever has that many, no car can be out in front of the barn. They gotta be wherever the front of the roadside of the barn is, they gotta be from there back. They can't be any farther out front, but I don't know of any other regs, but I'm sure your boss has wrote a few, so.
We've had some experiences.
which is nice, cause then you don't have all that lined up and looking like a used car lot in a residential area. I only work on one at a time.
Usually has 2 going at a time. One and a half left.
I have no further questions from the commission at this time.
All right, now we get to the data center issues.
Your favorite.
Yeah.
For support.
Okay, Kevin, would you like to lead us in on this one then?
So for tonight, I know there's been a lot of information over the last few months. It's definitely, there's more and more information becoming available on data centers. But really seeking at least some preliminary guidance from the planning commission. At the end of the day, the township does have to allow for all the uses. You know, the zoning enabling act is a little more specific where it says a demonstrated need and the capability to support it. There's already been a demonstrated need, so it's not just a demonstrated need in Sparta, but or other areas of the state, and the state's already has policy in place that says, yes, these data centers are a demonstrated need. So as we create regulations for Sparta Township, it really needs to focus on that site selection, where is the appropriate area in Sparta and what are the requirements that need to be met. As we're seeing with a lot of different ordinances, a lot of different communities are looking at it in different ways. Really the guidance I would need from the planning commission tonight to be able to really start bringing more and more to your attention is data centers regardless of size. So you could say just data centers period, special land use and industrial, or would the planning commission be open to regulating by scale? So maybe a small scale data center, and we put provisions on what that would actually mean. Maybe that could be a principal use in C2, or maybe that could only be an accessory use. Then as you change those scales, maybe say, well, a large scale or hyperscale, that's only in industrial. So that's really the direction I'm looking for tonight is, does the planning commission only want to do kind of a one size fits all? It's data centers, it's a special land and industrial, or would you be open to looking at scales of data centers and then potentially allowing them in different zoning districts?
Do we have any industrial area in our township?
We do.
And that would be where?
It's on 10 Mile. So there are a few vacant industrial properties. With the annexation of the Peterson property, the township did lose a good deal of industrial zone lands. But there's still.
But technically, isn't that now in the village?
Yes, so that used to be zone industrial. There it is. Industrial zone lands just to the southeast. So that's Alpine Avenue and the Rogue River. There's an industrial district there. Most of that currently there's a lot going on with those properties, but it is zone industrial. And then the main industrial district is on 10 Mile next to the railroad tracks.
10 Mile next to the railroad tracks.
So just,
Landco,
Pardon?
Landco,
Landco. You mean that,
the warehouse there.
yeah,
That's all
yeah,
zoned
trusses or
industrial.
whatever?
Trust, it used to be a trust.
That's,
it'd be trusted.
And there's a tool and die shop there.
yeah,
Isn't the property on Sparta Ave north of town industrial also?
oh, yeah, I do apologize, yes, on the west
So
side
it's the
of
gray
Sparta
area.
Avenue.
is that what you're saying?
Henry.
And
property.
Drive, yep. There's a good amount of wetlands on the south side of that property, but yes, there is still, I appreciate you mentioning that. There's some industrial on the west side of Sparta, just north of the Sparta Avenue, just.
Oh, he knew that because he used to live there for a few years.
Well, it didn't live.
However,
Well,
isn't
No, I
there
guess I
something
did
there?
Right now, I know there's at least one landscaping business,
Yeah,
but there's multiple parcels within
There's
that,
also an excavator on the corner.
yes.
yeah,
So yeah, there are businesses there, but there are vacant parcels in both of those industrial districts.
not very big ones.
Right across the street from.
They're not hundreds of acres, no, but
Connor,
there's
that's
nothing
the
that says you
parcel
have
that
to
I'm saying.
allow. There's nothing in the zoning enabling act that says you have to have a specific amount of industrial property within your community.
Right, but I'm just saying, most of these places need lots of acreages to do these things.
But yeah, that would come down to, you would would have to create the specific requirements and where it's appropriate. You do not have to allow data centers in agricultural or residential lands.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, if the planning commission found this says, you know, large scale data centers are only appropriate in the industrial district as a special land use.
Yeah,
There's no requirement that would force you to have rezone 20 more acres or 100 more acres of industrial property.
If I may interject my opinion, I think they should only be allowed in industrial zones.
I agree. I think they should only be allowed in industrial area.
That's my personal.
I think that's exactly what we should do.
You have to fill out this little chart.
You do not have to, I put that in there as, you know, trying to facilitate the conversation.
I would make a motion that data centers are allowed in industrial areas in Sparta Township,
Any size?
any size.
Is that being too restrictive? I mean.
That's our rule.
From an attorney's point of view, or?
Could they challenge that?
Yeah.
They do have to be reasonable rules. I mean, so it's, you have vacant industrial land, you're allowing for data centers. It would be the same thing as if a manufacturer came to town, hey, we want a 500 acre industrial property. Well, that's not available in Sparta Township, but it does have to be reasonable. Usually that's the challenge more is with mobile home parks. Some communities that don't have them already, they try to put them in a place where it's never feasible to have it, you know. That's when your regulations can be challenged, is that you only allow use in an unreasonable way. But
we have industrial land.
I would have no concerns if the planning commission moved forward with that data centers are only allowed in industrial as a special land use.
That sounds like the way to go.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
With the rezoning, could that be worked into the rezoning? Like, does this have to pass now, or is this something that is being voted for rezoning?
This wouldn't be rezoning anything.
Okay.
We're just saying that if you wanna bring in a data center,
Okay.
you have to put it in our industrial area.
So then the second question would be like, when you do that, can you still have specific requirements for like water usage and, you know, environmental impacts, generators, noise pollution? Can that all be part of that
I
as well?
think we ought to, I mean,
Right.
just to, you know, if somebody did find a industrial area and wanna put one in, we should be able to at least say, you know, you gotta have this, this and that, you know.
Definitely if the planning commissions, I think there's a consensus, you know, we can prepare a draft ordinance. We do have the one legal counsel has prepared already, we could move forward with that one, it's not.
Right.
Legal counsels covers everything, it also uses legalese in some items, so like there's one specific section in the draft we got from legal where it mentions, you know, part 401 of the wetlands. That one section covers water withdrawal, impact to wetlands, and a number of other items. I think from previous feedback from the planning commission is you'd like to see that expanded on and see some more specific requirements. So that would be my next step moving forward, is to draft an ordinance with some more clear language around what type of reports you'd wanna see, and those sorts of different things, but I can definitely bring something back next meeting for the planning commission's consideration.
One thing that I noticed in there, and this goes back on my experience as a DEQ person, could we require them to maintain an operating record at the facility that has all, you know, cause you're asking them for this insurance and this and this and that. That's what we used to do with landfills, we had them have an operating record that we could come in reasonable time and look at that. Okay, there's your insurance policy, there's your this, there's your that. your safety regs, so they're there, and it has to be on site.
Yes, we can require annual reporting.
But
Biannual?
for them to maintain that, that document, basically, and sometimes they were, of course, we had, monitoring wells and air samplings and all like that in there, but whatever we're requiring them to do or requiring to look at in our decision on them, they should document it and have it all compiled.
No, we can definitely create requirements with, as you mentioned, monitoring wells. I know with sand mines, that's usually common requirement.
Right.
So we can create reporting requirements, inspection requirements.
Right.
And sort within your draft ordinance.
We definitely want in there that after if they dissolve after 10 years, they've got 6 months to return the land to the way it was.
No, decommissioning will definitely be a big portion
Yep.
of, creating those regulations, and I think per the previous conversation too, of making sure that those decommissioning requirements are set up in such a way that it's not just removal of the buildings, it could be removal of the buildings or redoing that use for another industrial use.
Right, but would we wanna put a timeline on that? We'll give you X number of years to deal with reusing the buildings for something, offering it for sale or whatever.
So likely what you'll see within the decommissioning requirements is that the use is abandoned for 12 months. So my understanding is that 12 months has something to do with case law on determining whether a use is abandoned. But we could definitely put a timeline there, and then within that decommissioning plan, that would be something that would be a part of the original approval. That they would be required to bring a decommissioning plan of, hey, if we went out of business, here's how either we would restructure this use to be used by others or
Recycle the buildings, for something,
Yeah.
Get somebody else in there.
What if there's contamination of the soil?
Well,
They'd have to remove it before it could be converted into another business.
Well, a new business would have to do a baseline environmental audit and that would show all the flags.
No, those would be part of the requirements. There's not a lot of samples out there. I think a lot of communities in West Michigan are in a very similar situation to Sparta. We're still waiting on Michigan Townships Association to provide a draft, but hazardous material, that is definitely a provision that would be in there is, hazardous material storage. That is going to be a part of the review of a data set that you have to show what types of materials you're storing, how you're storing them, and that you're storing them in compliance with both local, state, and federal law.
Right.
Did you say how many acres of industrial we have? Or do you have a good guess?
I'd say there's, 80 to 100 acres at least that are vacant, and that was just on that 10 mile.
10 mile, okay.
Then the Handler property, there's potentially another 20 to 30, but those are all currently split into smaller parcels.
And out of that 20 or 30, a lot of it's wetlands.
Yeah, 10 to 15.
Well, it may have been wetlands. It may not be now, the way he was going.
What's a wetland, always a
Right,
wetland.
right, Dale.
I was gonna say, I have never had a wetlands delineation happen after I've had one that the wetlands have not grown. They grow every time. For different
Did you
reasons.
check with the drain commissioner?
Well, if you're drain commissioner, just do what you want.
Yeah, well, don't even get as good, right?
No, I paid my 60.
They are making some really significant improvements in that drain though. You noticed that, didn't you, Tim?
Gee, I think Rogers Park,
Significant improvements?
Yeah.
I have not seen any improvements
Over
yet.
there
Yeah.
at Dean Anderson's, I thought that was quite
I
something.
mean, it's a nice clearing along the side of it, but if you follow that all the way back and go to Vanderwerf's property, you're
I
gonna
haven't
see
been there.
so much erosion in there, so
I didn't
so
see that.
basically they're filling the creek
Wow.
from all the erosion.
I don't
coming
think they
down
did
through.
any good, seeing as how Rogers Park completely flooded a month
Yeah.
ago.
Dean's, yeah, but the the alleyway they made, at least on the one side of the creek so far, all the way from my property, all the way through Dean's and all the way back there.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, as a property owner, it's kinda cool, I mean, I can drive, it's 20 foot wide, all along the creek, you can walk it now nice and all that, but
Yeah,
But-
I thought it was kinda impressive.
But they took all of
That's just me.
all the trees and foliage out, so all the sand that's on the banks now is just washing
Just
back
kinda
in.
walked right in there.
And I'm just a dumb contractor, but if I'm doing a drainage project, I'm starting downstream and working up.
Exactly. I've never seen as much water in my wetland. Since,
Really?
yeah, I've never seen, I mean, it was a lake out there. And they've
Well,
been dredging,
maybe I shouldn't say a thing about it.
they've been dredging that pond, and it's gonna fill back in the way it's coming down.
It's moving, that was.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the most botched job so far, ever.
Yeah, I said right along, like Tim said, they should have started at the lower end.
Yeah, not
And they shouldn't have had 5 different contracts out there, because each contractor gets in when he can.
Yep.
He does his thing, and if something goes wrong, well, it's the guy bumping you.
Well, wasn't me, it was the other guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that when it's all done, it'll be good, but it's not a very well managed project at this point.
Yeah, I probably was very narrow-minded in my.
Well, what you're talking about, yeah, I agree,
I thought that was
that's
so
nice,
nice.
yeah. But,
Barb has a motion on the table, it hasn't been seconded, do you wanna, treat it as a recommendation, or do you wanna?
No, I
Thank
wanna make it as a motion.
She moved, how'd she put it? That, data centers are only allowed in industrial zoned land.
As a special use,
You added,
Is it special use?
That would be up to the planning commission, but that was what I presented.
Yes, as a special use.
special land use.
I'll second.
we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question for our planner, can we do that without having actually a zoning ordinance for it?
I would just take that essentially it's direction
Yeah.
of how to create the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I, it's just direction, but. Are we still doing it as a direction, or I got a second on the motion, Terry? What?
I had a second on the motion, correct?
I did, but I think it was more direction, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no enforceability to it until the zoning ordinance is adopted.
Okay.
Kevin's simply asking for the direction of how we wanna proceed with the ordinance.
Yes,
That's a consensus.
Yes,
yes.
okay. Let's change it to direction.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's just my opinion, but when we are looking at the decommissioning, I would think that we would be, at a minimum, have them do a baseline on the decommissioning process that would tell us if any contaminants have
Right.
gotten into the ground before they're
Mhm.
off the hook versus the next property owner having to do that before he purchases.
Had it tested before.
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Do it that way.
As the decommissioning is part of that requirement.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else? What do we got here? I lost my hat. Okay.
Public
Okay,
comment.
public comment. Is there any public comment? Did you?
I came for support, yeah.
Thank you for supporting us.
There's a lot. Jackie Landon, 3957 15 Mile Road. So just a few things I would question about, it's a 12-year moratorium, correct? With, or is it?
1 year.
1 year.
12 months.
Sorry.
Well,
Yep, it's, what day is it, Tuesday? It's been a long day. So my hope is that with this, just because we say it's industrial, that we can still say size limits and all that. And the other question I would have is that can we define these certain things to say we will not like allow AI data centers, like is that allowed in these? Like, you know, there's different definitions of what data centers are, and right now the artificial intelligence is like pretty scary, with what's going on. So I would just say if there's any way to define it and say that is not allowed. We're not denying data centers, but we're saying AI is not useful to society.
We can limit the type of data centers. No?
Then you'd
Okay.
wanna create a separate set of rules for
Okay.
AI, cause again, we have to allow for all legal uses.
That was my, there's so much, so I appreciate you guys going through this, but that would be my question, is if we could do that, so thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Public over here?
Nope, I don't.
He's switching seats on me, I thought, but maybe he's going.
Where'd he go?
That's so I can get ready to turn it.
It's like finding Where's Waldo, you know?
I asked Kevin earlier, because I got a call from Mr. Rhodey, who, you know who that is, don't you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, who? And, you know, he said, you know, you guys just aren't enforcing anything, he said, but I guess, you know, you pay people enough, they ignore it, so I took that personally. And I have not returned his call, and I will not return his call. I mean, he wants to be I won't say it.
We're on tape.
Yeah, I just, and I asked Kevin, and Kevin said that he's been out there, correct, Kevin?
Yep, yeah, so the planning commission's aware, you know, there are neighbors that have been opposed to Zavala's when they sought approval and since. They've made additional complaints about the use, but I have been out. I have verified that they have met their set plans. I have been able to verify that they have planted in those greenhouses over the winter months and that they are in compliance with their special land use. The last piece for me is to make, you know, the only last thing that I can do is go back out to the property and count bushes and make sure that are all living. So they've planted all their plantings. That would be the only potential piece that hey, you need to replant a bush, but otherwise they are in compliance with with their special land use and all conditions.
Nice.
And the trucking, is that what they're complaining about? Trucks
His-
coming in and out?
His complaint was if you verified the percentage of the product grown on the property versus purchased elsewhere, wholesale retail.
And I have visual proof that those greenhouses were full of multiple racks of plantings throughout the winter.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, we definitely, when we wrote the ordinance that this board approved, we said number of items, and then we agreed that, cause right now, he is moving forward. I've talked to Daniel, cause he calls me up almost every time that his neighbor has an issue with something, just to ask me my advice. I'm not sure what happened from last fall, but last fall, Mr. Rhodey actually came over with several quarts of strawberries, gave them to Daniel and said, hey, I just want this to be a peace offering so we can bury the hatchet and move on and be good neighbors. Mother's Day weekend, obviously, that's one of his biggest weekends for the year, and that's when a lot of issues started up again, signs in the front yard, protesting it, and so on. I don't know if we have a temporary sign ordinance that should be enforced out there, but, and then he also, has continually had problems with the neighbor that I think he's talked to Kevin about, and he's not sure how to handle them, with the neighbor just dumping all of his yard rubbish and debris over top of the fence onto his property. And cause I was involved with that project, and for the record, myself or my company did not receive payment or compensation in even a penny for the work we helped Mr. Zavalia with. The only checks that were written to him were reimbursements to the survey crew when they went back out there and to the, we had a company out of state do the design on the drainage system because that was a little above our pay grade. So, but he's been doing that, and when the property was surveyed, his fence, Mr. Rohde's fence sits on Mr. Zavalia's property.
Oh,
So, Kevin is going back out to verify everything just because he has received a complaint, and then possibly, I know Mr. Zavalia was going to ask for some sort of letter basically stating he is in compliance after that investigation. And then Mr. Zavalia will probably move forward with legal action to have his fence removed.
okay.
Which, up until now, he was perfectly okay with it. It did not bother him one little bit. He was trying to be a good neighbor.
Okay. I say, there was a time when he was just blowing my phone up and then hadn't heard from him, and all of a sudden I get this message on my phone.
Don't erase it.
No, I haven't,
Don't erase it.
so,
In case it has to go to court.
Yeah.
You may need it.
okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Support.
Motion properly supported, so moved.